What is going on, guys? Nolan Freeland here, and welcome back to another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. I am actually introducing this one because we had a little bit of technical difficulties with the microphones and recording, but that all gets worked out around like the 3:30 minute mark, and then we go into some better audio quality for you guys. But I'm excited to bring to you our guest on this episode, which is Craig Peters. And Craig works with ALFIE, which is like a local short-term bridge loan lender for real estate investment projects here, actually, and they're local to Asheville. So Craig talks about how he came from Philadelphia and his career as a casino marketing executive, which is pretty interesting, and how he kind of wound up in his position that he is now and has been in for like the last year and a half, 2 years. So yeah, check this episode out. Let us know what you think and enjoy.
Well, Craig, welcome to the show, man. Super glad for you to jump on the podcast. I feel like it's been a little bit of a long time coming, but yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, it's a popular podcast. I'm glad to be a part of it. Sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I think we're like episode 125-ish.
Wow.
25, 30, something in that range. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Wanted to talk to you obviously today about what you do with ALFIE and everything. We had John Sarver on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe 100 episodes ago probably. He was one of the early guests. But before we even get into that, do you mind kind of telling everybody what you do now and how you got to your role that you have with ALFIE, and then how you got to Asheville as well?
Yeah, well, I've been with ALFIE about a year and a half at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So ALFIE, we're a short-term bridge lender for real estate investment projects,
mm-hmm.
Big and small. So we loan money for fix and flips, buy and hold to build a rental portfolio. We'll do new construction loans, all the way up to small to mid-size housing developments, mm-hmm. and everything in between. So we're kind of a resource for real estate investors who either can't go to a bank, don't have time to wait for a traditional lender, or who have several projects going on at one time and aren't able to find financing resources
mm-hmm.
Quickly.
Right.
And again, we're short term, so we're in and out. 9 to 18 months is our average loan is about 9 months.
Okay.
We will go up to 18 months
mm-hmm.
for some of the bigger building projects and stuff. So we're basically a tool in the toolbox for real estate investors when they're trying to find some fast, flexible financing for their projects.
Yeah, that's an important piece to the puzzle, of course, if you're in the real estate game.
Absolutely.
So what? Yeah. How did you end up here in Asheville? Is Asheville home? I don't actually
Asheville
know.
is home.
Oh,
I've been
really?
in Asheville for 19 years now.
Okay. But you're older than 19, so you didn't go.
I moved here just when I was 2. No, I was in the casino business, actually.
Oh, really?
I worked in the casino marketing aspect of the business, which was essentially establishing relationships with players and trying to get them to come to the properties where I worked.
Did you work out like West and like Vegas?
No, not Vegas. I worked in Lake Tahoe for a few years,
cool.
And then I transferred to New Orleans. And had a baby in New Orleans, and that just was not the place where we wanted to raise a family.
Yeah.
So we moved here in 2000. And have since raised 2 kids, and they're both, well, one's already out of the house and one's almost out of the house. Remained in the hospitality industry. Did some hospitality consulting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Worked in the food and beverage business for quite some time here, and had a little bit of real estate dealings over the years, but nothing major. And then Todd Fowler and John Sarver started ALFIE about
mm-hmm.
5 years ago now, almost 5 years, and they had reached out to me. I had known Todd I've known him for about 17 or 18 years now.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they said, we're got this going on. It's starting to make waves.
Yeah.
What do you think about getting into the lending world? And here I am. So.
All right, so I did have this question, and guys, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so this podcast is going to have a little bit of a start and stop moment. But before we stopped, I was really curious to know, like, your time in there in the casino industry. What was, like, your biggest takeaway that you still use today? Skill set or the way to approach things that you've held on to?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from it is that building relationships is very important in everything that you do, and I try to pass that on to my kids because you'll never know what opportunity might present itself down the road. But I think the biggest thing I ever took away from the casino business is I don't gamble.
You don't gamble?
I don't
house
gamble.
Always wins?
I don't get the house ultimately always wins. I don't gamble in a casino. Now, I'll take risks in a real estate deal, but not as much as the risk that's involved in a casino. In a casino game.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's interesting. It's it's just all opinion and approach on what's a risk that's worth taking or not.
Well, I've seen some big money players lose a lot of money. They win a lot of money too, which is why they keep coming back, but they also lose a lot of money, and when you're seeing that kind of money move across the table, it gives you a whole new perspective.
Do you remember what was the amount of the first time that you were just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you just got wiped out for?
Well, it was over a 26-hour period. A guy was on a table for 26 straight hours. He ended up losing about $650,000.
26 hours?
26. He got there at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and left at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday.
So you went home, came back, and he was still there?
Yeah, I didn't go home very long. He was one of my players, but I don't know that I should be talking about this stuff. Anyway.
Let's hurry up and move past it. So you're talking about building relationships.
Yes.
Let's dwell on that for a couple of seconds, because that is super important in real estate, like in anything.
Absolutely.
Do you have, like, when you said you're trying to pass this on to your kids, do you have, like, a couple of rules or of pointers that you kind of reiterated to them or asked them to focus on or to keep in mind?
Well, general rules weren't my rules. They were made up a long time ago.
Right.
But, everybody has their own individual story, and you don't know their background, and you don't know what their what their business is, and you don't know in what capacity you can help them or they can help you. So always approach every single individual that you come across with the same respect that you would anybody that you know or that you're friends with or a family member.
Right.
Because it's you can always engage in something big down the road that you would never know was coming. So you don't know what everyone has to offer out there, and everyone does have something to offer.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. One of the first conferences I ever went to get into the real estate, one of the speakers said he was, you're always one relationship away from everything you've always wanted or needed. And that always stuck with me because
I didn't
really
come up with anything profound like that for my kids, but on the same line.
But it's the same thing,
right?
No, I'm regurgitating it because it really encapsulates exactly that, right? You just never know who you're going to meet.
For sure.
And I think in real estate especially, it's like looks are deceiving, right? There are sometimes people who appear to be doing really well who may not be, and just the other way around, people you might not give them the time of day, and they're the people you should be learning from the most, right?
For sure. I mean, we run into people all the time that you look at them and are like, huh, why is he here? He's not in a suit and tie like everybody else, yet that guy
is the
owns the most properties in the whole group.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for me. Like, this is as dressed up as I get for work, and I come up and somebody will say, oh, my banker's here, and they'll say, bank? That's your banker?
They just keep looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, where is he?
Where'd he go? Yeah. No, it's, you got to be careful with jumping to conclusions there for sure.
Yeah.
So you moved in with ALFIE, or moved into working with ALFIE, you said, what, a year and a half ago?
About a year and a half ago, yeah.
In those 18 months, what do you think, has there been anything that surprised you the most about this industry? From a lending perspective or just general real estate, something that I was like, I would have never guessed.
I would have never guessed that there are so many different types of deals out there, and that there are so many players involved. Like I said, we do anything from fix and flips up to sizable developments. Our loan parameters are $100,000 to $5 million. So you see some of these bigger deals, and you're like, you just don't. I didn't, and I'm sure a lot of people already knew this, but me coming into it blindly, I didn't realize like the different aspects of larger deals that are quite similar to the smaller deals, just obviously on a different scale. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and you wouldn't think about it. And for someone like me coming into it, I learned kind of on the back end. I wasn't a loan originator with a conventional bank.
Right.
I was more of a salesperson, and then shown the ropes on the back end of things. So I learned a little. I learned tricks of the trade and stuff like that from two seasoned real estate veterans,
right?
Which was kind of cool to be able to pick their brains along the way, and learned a whole lot of different stuff.
So you talked about it a little bit at the beginning about like what ALFIE does. What do you guys do? And maybe not so much from a generic like ALFIE thing, but what does it look like to work with somebody who's got non-traditional financing? Who's the type of person that comes to you, and why is that a good marriage?
So we have, I guess, a lot of our borrowers are people who have a real estate background, who don't necessarily have an income on paper, and they have an income, but they have no proof of it per se. I mean, they have a bank account with money in it, but they don't necessarily have an income statement.
They don't have traditional like qualifying paperwork.
Right, they don't have a W-2, which is what a lot of banks require. So our loans are based on collateral value, and we will scrutinize deals a little differently than a bank will. So if there's value in the collateral, we're able to kind of look at the loans a little differently and not worry so much about the income as to, our main concern is the protection of our investors' money, which is where we get our money to loan out. If that money is protected through our underwriting, then all goes well. And we look at them, we'll do some deals that some banks won't do just because the banks have certain limits.
Strict guidelines or whatever,
Yeah, and they'll just say, no, we don't do that. And we'll say, well, we might do that, but we need to look into it a little further. And we're not a giant company. We've got a considerable amount of funds to lend. But between John and Todd and myself, we have our eyes on every single loan that's going out. So,
do you mind talking into about what your underwriting process is? Assume that I've never worked with you, and I'm coming to you, and I've got a project. What does this process look like? Can we just kind of go A through Z on that?
Yeah, sure. So, once we really can't do anything until someone has a property under contract. Throwing theoretical situations at us isn't helpful because we need solid numbers.
All right. I'll give you a solid number property and contract then. So we can go with, in theory, right? And obviously the variables on this situation is going to be me, right?
Sure.
Because every borrower is a little different in where they're at. So take me out of the picture, but let's look at it from the property. Got this small one bed, one bath property out in Swanano under contract. And it's livable. It's rented for, I think, $700, $750 a month. We're looking at doing a quick fix and flip on it. I think that the retail value is somewhere around, say, $124-ish to $130. It needs maybe about $20,000 worth of work. Assuming all of those things are true, what would happen next if you get an email from me? Hey, Craig, here's what I got.
If you have it under contract,
correct,
I would need for you to submit an application. I'd need your your rehab budget.
Okay.
I would need a draw schedule, which
Mm-hmm.
is essentially it's your budget listed out in a structure that will basically reimburse you for work performed.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll loan you X amount of dollars at closing, and then X amount of dollars that will be dispersed according to your draw schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll need a budget, a draw schedule, and we will need a valuation performed, an appraisal or a BPO, depending upon the type of property
Mm-hmm.
and where it is. And
Right.
and once that is done, we can start working on the numbers. So essentially, we can loan up to 85% of your cost, meaning your purchase price plus your rehab costs,
Mm-hmm.
as long as that loan amount comes within 70% of the after repair value.
So you guys can loan 85% of the 70%.
85% of your so say purchase price 100,000, 50,000 is your rehab budget.
Yeah.
So your total cost is
150.
150. So
you
we
guys-
could loan 85% of
the
the 150, or say the after repair value, the ARV, is 250. We could loan either 85% of your cost or 70% of the 250.
Okay.
Whatever number's lower.
Right.
And that's, again, goes back
Be a
to
little
protecting
relative.
our investors' money, so we're never into a project for more than 70%.
Right. What sort of what's the application process look like?
So our application process is pretty simple. We have a 3-page application.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially getting all of your personal information and your an overview of your project. So it gives all the details of your purchase price, what you estimate
Mhm.
the after repair value would be. How are you going to take us out, which is an important one. Are you going to refinance? Are you going to sell it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to keep it as a rental for 6 months and then refinance? I forget the question now.
Well, is this what the application process
Oh
was
yeah,
like?
yeah,
So-
yeah. So it's really simple, and so one of the things that we've been set up for is speed. So part of that whole process is the valuation of the property. So within like 3 days of receiving the application, we will have a valuation performed on that property.
And is that an internal process, or do you guys hire it out to third party?
It depends on what the project looks like.
Gotcha.
So we do anything from a BPO internally to a full-on commercial appraisal, which
Depending on
often
the
doesn't
scope.
take 3 days. I mean,
Right.
the commercial appraisals can take up to a month or a month and a half.
Right, but if it's a big project, that fits.
Sure.
Right. And then, say everything checks out, how quickly can you guys fund?
So we are fortunate enough to be able to close loans, I would say 90% of the time in under 2 weeks,
Wow.
which is
Yeah, that's fast.
another reason why people will come to us and avoid the traditional financing
Right.
ways, because it could take up to a month or more, to go a different route.
Absolutely, absolutely. What has been 18 months? What's been the thing that you've enjoyed doing the most?
Dealing with people is just something I've always enjoyed. Now, I am not a cold call guy, and I've had to do some of that, which is fine. It's just a little out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy the relationship building part of it, because essentially, we're very upfront with everything that we do, and we've built a lot of trust with
Yeah.
all of our borrowers over the years, and it's the repeat customers that keep coming back, and that's something that I really like
Right.
to see. It's because whatever I've been doing for however long, and our whole process has a lot to do with it, but it works out well, and I
Yeah.
like that. I like
Yeah.
the fact that I'm able to help people get into a deal that they otherwise might not be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I met them through a referral, or I happen to knock on their door. I've knocked on a lot of builders' doors.
Right.
When they're just like, we're busy, get out of here. I'm like, all right, sorry.
Whoops.
Here's what we can do. And if you say the right things, they might say, hold on, what do you do? It's happened to me several times.
Very cool, yeah.
Which helps my build my confidence in my
To
cold
go do it some
calling
more,
stuff.
right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good cycle to get stuck in.
Yeah.
What, just, as we're wrapping up, has there been any consistent pitfalls that you've seen? Like, what's, like, if somebody's new, and maybe, like you say, like, out of every 10 people that apply that are new, or you get 10 people who apply that are new, is there a consistent mistake or something that somebody who's new misses? Or is there, does that question make sense? I know it's kind of, like, a little convoluted, but...
I think that one of the biggest things I see with new folks is that they see it on TV and think that it's easiest thing in the world to do, and it's like the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
I've done it myself where I thought I knew what I was doing. Next thing you know, I'm like 10 grand over budget, and it's like, where'd that come from?
How did that happen?
And that's after that's after a year of me watching it happen every day.
Yeah, it was really good exposure there.
So it's the overconfidence, thinking that this is my easy ticket, to wealth. It's just like anything else, any other job you do. You have to start out at the bottom and work your way up. So yeah, if there's one thing, I do like walking through deals with people and kind of let them know. I turn people down all the time, and I don't make money if I turn people down, but we want to make sure everybody benefits.
It's not going to do you any good to put somebody into a losing situation.
No, because they won't come back and use me next year when they want to do another project.
Exactly.
And that doesn't help anyone. Mm-hmm. So we continue to try to build and strengthen those relationships, and we're all partners in our deals. It's not just rubber stamping things through and moving through to the next one. It's how can we make sure that everybody's safe, everybody's happy, and then we do this again in 5 months.
Absolutely. Wondering if there's anything that you personally are particularly excited about, for 2020, for this year.
I think as long as the powers that be keep things in check, we have a pretty healthy real estate market to look forward to. But there's no, you can predict all day long, but you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, man, Craig, thanks so much for jumping on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know John came and did this one, and I told him I was gonna upstage him. I doubt I did that at all. But
we'll let people decide. It's fine. How do people get in contact with you if they want to talk to you about potentially working with you, if they have any questions on whatever we've talked about?
So we have a website, which is www.alfieloans.com. Mm-hmm. We also have an office here in Asheville, right on Arlington Street, right off of Charlotte Street. And we have another office in Greenville, South Carolina, which is where I spend a pretty good portion of my time. But yeah, you can find my phone number on the website, and John and Todd as well. And we actually just brought a new guy on, Matt Craig, who's working in the Greensboro area, because we've had a lot of loan demand out there as well. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. All the contact information will include it in the show notes, or might be overlaid if you're watching this on video. But yeah, Craig, thanks so much for joining us for the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. As always, please leave us a review, a rating, share this show with your friends. If you know of anybody who's needing funding, this is a good one to share it with them. Take care. See you guys next week.